A really common challenge in high intensity training business is trying to find great trainers for your business. So a while back, I teamed up with Luke Carlson and we recorded a podcast called How to Recruit Great Trainers for Your Hit Business. Lauren's still here and welcome back to High Intensity Business, your one-stop shop for growing your hit business and fueling your passion for high intensity training. This is actually a throwback episode from our exclusive high intensity business community, but don't let the fact that we recorded this a couple years ago put you off, because it's full of great principles and tactics for recruiting trainers that will really help you out today. So in today's podcast, we talk about Luke's trainer recruitment philosophy, the importance of website transparency and design when it comes to actually selling trainers on the opportunity, how to run an effective internship program, lots and lots of trainer recruitment tactics that still work well today, and the most important attribute for attracting great trainers. So a little bit of a mystery there. You have to stay tuned to find out what that is. So who is Luke? Luke Carlson is CEO and founder of Discover Strength. Discover Strength is one of the fastest growing strength training franchises in high intensity training, with over 35 locations open or in development across the US. So he is the man to listen to when Luke speaks about how we grow our hit businesses. We should all listen. So without any further ado, please enjoy How to Recruit Great Trainers with Luke Carlson. Luke, welcome back to the membership.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Lawrence.
Thank you. And I really appreciate you taking time out of your day again to share some of your wisdom around the topic we're going to be focused on today, which is how do you recruit the right trainers and what kind of tactics do you use to generate those leads, so to speak, in terms of bringing in prospective trainers into your business for interviews. So obviously, as I said before we got recording, we will go through some of the tactics that you guys use. But before I do that, I just wondered if you wanted to just kind of set the scene in terms of how we should be thinking about when we're trying to attract the right candidates into our business. Have you got any kind of philosophy in your business when it comes to that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I'll state that I think the question that you need to answer, and I'll give you our answer to that question is, and you alluded to it, is what's your philosophy around personal trainers and how does that fit your business model? So are you the owner operator of your studio, but you're looking for a little bit of help to cover like the early morning shift from maybe 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. or 6 to 9, or you want to no longer take clients in the evening from 5 p.m. on, you personally, and you want a little better work-life balance. And so you'd love it to have a trainer work from 5 p.m. until 8 p.m. So you're looking for part-time help to fill in the gaps when you can't be with clients. Or are you really trying to build an employment destination for the trainer, where you're trying to, if you could just start from scratch and build out the perfect personal training job for a trainer, that's what you're trying to do. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that, because if you're training a lot of people yourself in your studio, but man, you'd really like to be able to leave at 5 p.m. and still bring in revenue and still have sessions going on, then I think the part-time option's great, filling in on weekends, et cetera. Maybe they could fill in more extensively if you took a vacation. I think that's okay. Our mentality has been the latter. So pretend I didn't exist at all. Pretend I would never train a client. What would be the ideal? What would be the perfect work environment for the personal trainer? What do they need to be engaged in their work? What would allow us to retain them, et cetera? So our mentality has always been inspired by the Mayo Clinic. And I know it's a little bit of a stretch. I don't think it's a stretch, but some people may think it's a stretch. The Mayo Clinic is the world-renowned medical and healthcare facility with their main headquarters in Rochester, Minnesota in the US. And, if the Dalai Lama gets sick, he comes to the Mayo Clinic. I mean, every, world leader, I shouldn't say nearly every world leader will fly to Minnesota to get treatment at the Mayo Clinic, because we're known for having every conceivable specialist in every, minute area of medicine. So the Mayo Clinic has this wonderful reputation, and their whole approach is, we're just going to go and hire the best physicians in all these different areas and we're going to pay them well and treat them well, and we're going to become great because of that. And so that's what our approach has been, is we want to be the Mayo Clinic of fitness. And I don't think that's the only way to do it, but that's what we want to do. So we have to look at the personal trainer job as, how would the Mayo Clinic recruit their physician? The other analogy we use is the law firm. I think the law firm has so much in common with the personal training studio, and that we have all these different service providers, and we are trading time for money in both instances. And I think there's a lot of synergy there. And so we try to look at what law firms do and do something similar with our personal trainer. So what does a law firm have to do to recruit and retain that attorney? And we would think the same way for the personal trainer. So I've adopted the latter mentality. And I'm not saying that's the only mentality, but I think you have to know going into it is, what are you trying to recruit for? Is this truly like a career position, an employment destination? Now, when I say career position, if someone doesn't stay for 35 years, that's okay. If they stay for 3 years or 8 years, that's fine. That's common in virtually every industry, even in what we've traditionally looked at career positions. So it's not a failure if someone doesn't stay for 35 years, that employee doesn't stay, but are you going to position their work day, their work week, their position with your company as something more permanent? And that's my leaning for sure. And I didn't know that when we opened up. And we opened up, a little over 13 years ago. We had part-time trainers, and I said, I need time. I need about a year to understand what the model will look like. Well, we have part-time people that are not getting paid as much. Some were college or university students at the time. Or do we want to have full-time people that are really, really invested?
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, before we, I guess, jump into some of the tactics and strategy for recruiting trainers. And one of the things that I wondered was, if you did, so you obviously, like you say, it's important to have some kind of core vision that you're working towards. And I appreciate that is perhaps learned and refined over time and subject to change. But if you did take the example you gave at the start, where you said, someone's just trying to get someone in so that they can work different hours and they can cover them during some of the less desirable shifts, I suspect that type of decision would likely turn into lower retention or lower trainer retention, which could then be an issue. Would you agree with that?
So I'm not, that's a great thought. I'm just not certain of that. Okay. It could be, what I'm suggesting is you just have to treat the person, the position, the whole recruiting approach, the retention approach differently. Like what I've seen happen is a studio owner doesn't have the answer to this kind of fundamental question we're talking about. And then they're recruiting and they hire someone, and they, in the back of their head, are thinking, I'm going to develop this person. So they're the person, and they're full-time, they're making good money, and they look at this as a career. That's what they're thinking in the back of their head. They just think that's the natural progression. But then they are not treating that person that way. And that person hasn't been communicated, this is what I'm moving toward. And they're treating the person like, I've said this before on your podcast, they're using the mentality of a genius with 1,000 helpers. Like, everybody knows, hey, this is Lawrence's studio. Lawrence is the guy. I'm just Lawrence's assistant, going to train you today. And so in your head, being the studio operator, you're thinking, no, you're not my assistant. You're actually progressing to being the guy. And I think that's where you have the issues, is the trainer doesn't know, like, what's my role here? Because there is a place for just stopping in and helping out and personally training clients. And if you have a full-time 40-a-week job and you can personal train clients another 8 hours in a week in a 30-minute workout model, train another 16 clients, that is really valuable for the studio. It's awesome for you if you have that interest. So I'm not saying that that's not a decent option. I just think you got to know how to treat the person so that you can retain them. And I've seen part-time trainers be retained for a long time, 10 years plus. So
awesome. Okay. So let's get into some of these tactics. So do you want to first start off talking about the importance of website transparency?
Yep. I think that's absolutely the starting point. Is anyone that's going to work for you is going to do all their homework online first. They are not going to talk to you first. It's not going to be an in-person face-to-face meeting. And even if you have a face-to-face meeting, they're going to trust your website, maybe even more than that, face-to-face. So we have to, on the website, be transparent about what the employment experience looks like. This is, I think, the best advice I've ever received. It comes from a guy by the name of Marcus Sheridan. He's a speaker and an author, and he writes a book really about marketing called They Ask, You Answer. And he applies it to marketing to customers, but he also applies it to marketing to new staff. And I should state now that one of your major marketing functions should be marketing to new potential trainers. But we talk all the time that there's 5 functions of marketing, and one of those 5 functions is marketing to potential trainers. So that's what our marketing should do. It should speak to the potential trainer. And when you do that, you want to be transparent about what it looks like to work there. You want to answer all of the questions that a potential trainer could ask you. And so what you would just sit and do this activity by yourself, you would just sit and think, if I'm going to go work at a training studio, what would I need to know? What questions would I ask? The first question you'd probably ask is, well, how much do you get paid? And then in our world, a follow-up question to that would be, how do you get paid? Do I get paid per client? And then the follow-up to that is, well, do I have to find my own clients? If I walk in there tomorrow, am I expected to start selling and come up with my own clientele? So think through the 4 to 6 questions that you would ask when you're looking for a job, and the specific answers to those on your website. Do not have cliches. So for us, like the first question is, what is the compensation? And specifically, it walks through our philosophy. It says, on average, a Discover Strength personal trainer is going to make $45,000 in the first year, $52,000 in the second year, and probably the third year, $61,000 in the fourth year. In the 5th year, they're going to be making $70,000. And then we talk through exactly what you get in terms of health insurance and 401k and so forth. So all that's going to be in there. Then every trainer is going to want to know, what's my schedule look like? So the second question we have on our website is, what does the personal trainer's hours and schedule look like? And we talk about that we think it's important to have a 40-hour work week. We don't want you in the studio 70 hours to be able to train adequate number of sessions. So we really have 2 shifts, the 5:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. shift, or the noon to 8 p.m. shift. And then our newer trainers, a couple times per week, we spell all this out. We'll do a split. So they work 5:30 to 9:30 in the morning. It's 4 to 8 in the evening. And how that's so important, because you make more money that way early on, but you only do that a couple times a week. And then after you've been with us for 3 years, you will pick your own schedule. You'll decide when you want to work. And we talk about the why behind this. We were doing this because we don't want to burn you out as a trainer. So then we move on to other questions we think that the trainer would ask when they're looking for a job. Do you have to acquire your own clients? What qualifications are required? So we require a 4-year degree. I do not think that is imperative. It's just something we've decided to do. So we have the 4-year degree on there, and then we don't require any certifications, because when you start with us, we're going to walk you through HIT Uni and a few other certifications. So, and then methodology. So we spell out, what type of methodology does Discover Strength utilize? Because everyone's going to ask that. They're going to look at the pictures of your facility, and we forget this. I mean, your listeners, we all forget this, that most people that are coming to our sites, they're shocked when they don't see TRX in an open, space of fake artificial turf, green turf, which is the functional, training area, which is, I've been in beautiful new health clubs all over the world, and they say, yeah, we built a great new personal training space. Look at it. And it's just 2,000 square feet of green, artificial turf with some TRX. And I think, oh my gosh, our definition of great personal training spaces are totally different. And so people are going to see all of the equipment that you have packed into your facility, and they're going to wonder, okay, well, what's the methodology? And so you can spell out that methodology. And in doing so, not only can you communicate clearly, but you also can maybe excite someone and have your passion be contagious around this methodology. They might think, okay, I'm going to potentially learn something as I embark on this job also. So we got to be really clear on the website, all the questions that they would ask, list the question, and then list the answer.
Yeah. Well said. And I will also take this as an opportunity to say that clearly it's important that your website is professional looking, as there's a lot of websites in this niche which are quite old and need to be updated. And it doesn't cost a great deal of money to actually get your website updated and looking to a professional standard which is going to resonate much more with trainers, since trainers tend to be, I guess, on the younger end as well, right? So you're going to want a web design that's going to really appeal to that individual.
I completely agree with you. The investment is really low, Lawrence, and no one will believe you that you have a great business and that you have great workouts if you don't have a great website. It is incompatible. And so you cannot do that. You have to, they will believe what they see on your website. And I stated this, but let me make sure that I'm really clear on it. When you write those questions on your site and you give the answers have to be just over the top honest. I mean, you have to state what's not good about the job. You're trying to build trust through transparency here. So like if something sucks, I mean, like if you have to start at 5:30 a.m., you got to put that on there. So people will understand right away if you're just trying to compliment your own organization in those answers. You have to be brutally honest and talk about what's not good.
Yeah. And we'll link to your page there on Discover Strength so people can see your example of that. So you have a very successful approach to getting new trainers, and that is the SIP and WIIP programs that you run. Would you like to just elaborate on those and explain that?
Yeah. So these are our internship programs. SIP and WIIP stands for Summer Intensive Internship Program, which is going on right now as we record this. And then there's the Winter Intensive Internship Program. We position the summer so that it starts right when the academic school year ends. We position the WIIP during the Christmas break. So Christmas kind of holiday ends, New Year's ends, and they still have 3-4 weeks off. And so the program is generally 6 weeks long. We sometimes shrink the winter to 5 weeks long to make it fit. And here's the whole idea. You are not taking on an intern in the traditional sense of an intern, where the intern is learning as they go. They're helping you out. They're maybe assisting and training some clients. They're doing some light cleaning. They're getting you a cup of coffee. I mean, that's the traditional office intern sense. What we do is try to increase, here's the message. We're trying to increase their excitement for the brand. We're trying to increase their excitement for potentially working at Discover Strength. So we generally only take undergraduates. So we want juniors in college, not seniors in college. And here's the format. 6 weeks long, once per week. It's an in-person meeting. We call it a classroom session. So we'll meet at 7 p.m. and we rotate to our different studios. So we meet at 7 p.m. at the studio, and it starts with an hour presentation. Who does the presentation? Just our trainers rotate through and do it. So the first week of the 6 weeks would be introduction to evidence-based strength training. The second week might be something along the lines of special populations or advanced techniques. Third week would be strength training for fat loss. We have a full session on that. The next one is strength training in the athletic context. So we work through 5 different sessions. The 6th session is a little bit different. That's the first hour. Then we go into the actual training floor, and we spend the rest of the time going through different training elements. So the first day would be what a repetition should look like. What does momentary muscle failure look like? And this is literally the first time these students have ever gone to muscle failure and have ever done a proper rep. And so by the end of that day, they maybe do 3 different sets. Like our goal is get them to do a leg press, get them to do an upper body push or an upper body pull. And then generally, if it's a male, we try to have them do a bicep exercise. And by the end of that first day, they are excited and they want to try more of it. They're excited about what they're learning. The second week on the floor, we're going to get into advanced overload techniques. So we're going to teach, what does an assisted rep or forced rep look like? What's a breakdown set? What does pre-exhaust look like? So we'll go through a few of those advanced overload techniques. And then each week we just add something else on the floor. So that's just 1 day per week. We do it on Thursdays. So it's not time intensive for us. It doesn't just suck us energy and time suck on us all week long. But then what we do each week is that intern does 1 workout with a trainer. So they come in and get personally trained once per week. And then that trainer not only trains them, but gets trained by them once per week. So as an intern, I get trained and I have to train one person once per week. And when you train someone, you actually start to learn, and you're training one of our trainers. And so who cares if you make mistakes? You're just making mistakes on a trainer. So by the end of the internship, you get to get personally trained 6 times, and you get to personally train 6 sessions, and it doesn't matter if you make mistakes. So part of the beauty of that is if there's one thing that turns you on to high intensity training, it's going through amazing workouts yourself. So each one of our trainers is training these people and just giving them incredible workouts, unbelievable workouts. By the end of the internship, this person's thinking, I've done about 6 to 8 workouts with all the hands-on portion included. And I am so excited about this style of training and excited about this brand. So the central message here is that you want to leave this intern on a crescendo of interest in the company and the brand. And the way we end the internship is everybody does a capstone presentation. So for the full 6 weeks, they're working on a presentation. We give them about 6 topics they can choose from: ACL rehab, preparing for a bodybuilding competition, preparing for a particular sport. So we give these different examples, and then they work with a partner, go over the research, do a presentation. And then the very final day of the internship, a number of our staff show up and listen to their presentations. I listen to their presentations. I always bring a carrot cake because I like carrot cake. We bring some wine or some beer. And when they get done presenting, we all just have a drink and have some carrot cake and listen to the other presentations. And it's kind of fun social way to wrap up the whole experience. And then the last, I give a few kind of parting, I would call them words of wisdom. I'm not sure if everybody would agree, but I just say a few words to the interns as they kind of move on. And I challenge them that you now have this knowledge, these tools in your tool belt, and you have a choice to make. Are you going to go along with the popular trend and have a herd mentality and go along with everything you've taught in your exercise science undergraduate program? Or are you going to commit yourself that the rest of your professional life, you're going to base everything on what the evidence says? And so I think I excite them by the end of it that they should be focused on an evidence-based approach. And then what we're doing all throughout the 6 weeks is, of course, we're just identifying who we'd want to hire down the road. So I will tell you that almost all of our great hires come from our internship program. We just hired a woman, Nora, who is an All-American volleyball player, and she was an intern for us a few months ago, and she's now just going through her onboarding right now, and she's just an all-star. We had an intern 3 years ago that then moved to New York and did a graduate program and coached basketball in New York and was a strength and conditioning coach at a university there. And she is just got done with her interview process and will start with us in about 2 weeks here. So most of our, not all, but a high percentage of our great hires have come from that program.
That's awesome. So do you want to just touch on how you go about setting those up, how you go about building those relationships with the universities and colleges?
Yep. So just 2 things. We put the internship on all the job boards. So every university will have a internal job board. So we put it on there, and then we physically email all the faculty of all the colleges and universities, and we try to find out who's the key decision maker, who's teaching, a very applied exercise science course. And that faculty member understands if they come across a student that's interested in strength training, they should turn them over to us, either for an employment opportunity or for an internship opportunity. And then what we do, because we can't really trust the faculty member to talk about us, is we ask, can we come and visit a class? So we try to visit multiple classes each year and speak for 5 to 10 minutes, 5 to 15 minutes at the beginning of the class and talk about our internship program and employment opportunities. And maybe we'll throw in a plug for the REC conference as well. But our whole philosophy is we want to go to the colleges and go to the universities and get in front of the students. And then you have to do that the right way. So I think about who we're sending, and I think about, okay, like our whole approach is we wear a shirt and tie. When these students have someone who is 28 years old show up in a shirt and tie, dressed professionally, a male and a female, there to talk to them about an internship opportunity and an employment opportunity, it's a very professional presentation. And of course, that's what we're looking for. And you have to decide what you're looking for, but that works for us. And they remember that visit. The student remembers that visit. And the student also, how many employers are visiting the actual classes and recruiting that way? And so I think that gives us a huge advantage that we're actually willing to take the time and effort to do that.
Excellent. So wanted to go through a few tactics with you, Luke. Have you got 10 minutes or so to do that?
I do. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So no, that's excellent. And I understand that the SIP and WIIP programs, internship programs that you run are some of your most or probably your most effective tactics and in terms of hiring the highest quality candidates for your business. But I'm just curious, what else do you do in your business to attract candidates?
So I'm gonna go through a number of things.
Okay.
Tactics. So one would be when we're hiring and we don't have a lot of people in our interview process, is that we'll put something on Facebook, we'll put something on Instagram that we're hiring, and that'll direct people toward the website that has a video, what our employment experience looks like, and then all these questions that I talked about. So we want referrals from our clients and even our staff, but our clients. I mean, we have, over 1,000 clients, and we want those clients to be saying, hey, my neighbor has a son or a daughter that is just graduated from an exercise science program, and they were just talking about it. So we want that referral. So we want something on our social media, and we will even do an email blast to our client list saying we're hiring, and then we'll say we're looking for, and we'll describe what we're actually looking for. So we'll do the traditional email blast and social media. We're currently, constantly on all job boards. So 12 months out of the year, we're on every job board with an updated post. So if anyone's looking at any of the local job boards, we're on all of those. We've done a decent amount of activity on LinkedIn. The things we don't like are traditional recruiting websites, because we've got such a poor candidate from that. I mean, we'll literally have to go through 200 people to get to one person that we would even want to interview. And it's more time and labor intensive for us. Like the Indeeds of the world haven't been a good fit for us for the personal training position.
Right. Okay. And a while ago, we spoke about, I think I asked you about, do you know any good recruitment agencies for personal trainers for high intensity training studios? And you said no. And I believe Kyle from The Perfect Workout said the same thing. And I'm guessing that's because it's just too niche. And it made me think that maybe there's an opportunity there for someone to set up a recruitment company that would just specialize in these types of trainers. I think that could work quite well. But has there been any developments on that front? Have you built any relationships with agencies, or does it simply just not exist in your view?
Yeah, as far as I know, it doesn't exist. I think the idea is a great idea. I think that sounds like something a high intensity business could get into. But I think that would be very valuable because I've heard a number of colleagues, say they are interested in the same thing. So we haven't used anything like that, or haven't used anything like that with any degree of success. The other thing we have done, and maybe this is so obvious it's not worth stating, is we obviously want to encourage our current trainers that if they have someone, that we'd love for them to refer that person to us. So let's say you're a 23-year-old trainer. You came out of a college or university, and you had a friend that's now a senior about to graduate from that college and university. If you think they'd be just an all-star with us, you should definitely refer them. And the beauty of our current trainers is they know what we're all about. And so they generally only refer people that would be the right fit in all ways. So what we used to do is we used to offer like a finder's fee, like you got a certain amount of money or a gift card when that person got hired. And then when that person got to their 1-year anniversary, you got more money and another gift card. But frankly, that wasn't really an incentive. It was more of just a reward after the fact. And it wasn't driving more referrals or more candidates. So we stopped doing that actually. And our trainers still refer the same number. So you'll hear that a lot from a lot of different companies, that it's a genius idea. I think it's a fine idea. It just never really worked for us. It didn't increase. Our trainer would say, great, you're going to give me, $500 if I do this. But frankly, I know this person's not a great fit, so I'm not going to refer them to us. And man, I respect that and appreciate that so much.
Right. And I suppose the negative that could come from some kind of incentive like that is someone referring someone who's not an ideal fit.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, that person's not an ideal fit. It's not likely to have a long tenure, or maybe not even long enough for that person to earn a reward, but it still wastes everyone's time at the end of the day.
Sure.
So in terms of just going back to what you said about the social media ads for a moment, I just want to mention that Skylar and Bryce have both or I posted on their behalf some copy that they've used with some success in terms of attracting candidates on LinkedIn. So I'll link to that, and feel free to obviously take that copy and use it as a template for your own ads. And I know that, Luke, you probably I don't know if this would fall under Hannah's role or the marketing agencies that you might use, but in terms of the graphics for the social media ads, I will try and find some of yours and see if I can put that in the PDF for this, for an example.
Yep, that sounds great.
But I'm just thinking, and feel free to jump in on this. If you're a single person business, you're just getting started, or you're watching the pennies. There's really great software online. There's a website called Canva.com, which I use, and I'm terrible at graphics. I mean, that's probably quite obvious. But I can use and at least be average when it comes to this kind of stuff. And it's called Canva.com, which is a fantastic online solution for
and
creating graphics.
Hannah's in love with Canva. She does everything with Canva.
Yeah, I think she'd mentioned it to me before. But obviously, then if you're a larger organization, or you've got more cash flow, then obviously feel free to offload that to an agency to manage those graphics for you. In terms of tactics, you covered everything that I could think of, Luke, and I was going to ask you about an internal referral scheme. Is there anything else that you think, either other tactics that come to mind that you think have been effective for recruiting trainers, or is there any other kind of principles you want to touch on before we start wrapping up?
Yeah, I would say philosophically is Jim Rohn, like the godfather of kind of the self-improvement movement and self-improvement speaking and writing. And he's the guy that got Tony Robbins into doing what Tony Robbins does. I mean, Tony Robbins always sat in his course, and Tony Robbins looked at him and talked to him afterward and said, I think this is something that I could do. Jim Rohn said something to the effect, I'm going to get the paraphrase 99% there. He said, you attract into your life what you attract into your life. You're attracting it into your life based on the person that you've become. So if you focus on becoming a certain type of person, that's what you're going to attract into your life. And I feel the same way is the same way with our business, is to attract great people or a talent pool to your business. You got to focus on growing the great business, because in today's day and age, the candidate knows about your business. They will look at every possible website, job board. I mean, they're going to find out what it's like to work at your company. So you have to make sure that you're building a company where someone will want to go to work for, because they're going to hear all the bad things. They're going to hear all the good things ahead of time. So in our efforts to recruit, don't just think about recruiting and don't just think about tactics. Think about, what could I change in the business that when word gets out on the street, because it will get out on the street, this is how we do things, it'll attract more people to us. So don't forget about that component.
That's awesome. And just to, I guess, let the members know, there is another piece of content in the membership which covers your hiring process. So this is an excellent Q&A that we did with Luke, where we went through the entire Discover Strength hiring process, front to back, and then we did some Q&A at the end on lots of minutiae. And we went through, all of the format, the questions, every single detail of each step. So really, this is a nice sequence of content, because you've got the how to recruit, which is obviously how to get the candidates in the top of the funnel. Then the hiring process. And then very recently, Luke and I recorded an episode called The Goose and the Golden Egg, which is in effect, and Luke, correct me if I'm wrong, all about how to retain trainers, how to kind of attract them into your business, but then retain them and develop them and make them great and ultimately turn your business to a real success. So these three are quite a nice sequence, really. And that will be, the Goose and the Golden Egg will be available probably in about 4 or 5 weeks' time. And I'll obviously notify everyone when that's published. But Luke, this has been great as always. What's the best way for members to find out more about you?
They can always go to our website, discoverstrength.com, or they can just shoot me an email at luke@discoverstrength.com, and I'd love to connect with them and do anything I can.
Awesome. Do you also just want to mention the two events, the Real Hit and Rec as well?
Yep. Obviously, 2 ways to get more is, number one, attend our resistance exercise conference, which has really become a meeting place for high intensity training practitioners, which is every spring. So it's in March in Minneapolis. And then the Real Hit Experience is a 2-day workshop that we do 3 times per year in Florida. It's Jim Flanagan and myself. And the whole focus on there is to take you through a transformation, 2-day transformation, where you're a studio operator when you come in, personal trainer when you come in, and when you leave, you're truly an expert at running a personal training business. So that's kind of the transformation. And that's coming up at the end of August. And there's a website that hopefully, Lawrence, it'd be okay if you could link to that as well.
Sure. Yeah. I'll link all that up in the thread for this and the membership. Luke, thank you so much for joining me again. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, Lawrence.